Hello everybody. Today I want to share the latest updates, fixes, and improvements in DriveWire 4. There is a lot to cover, from modern browser support to enhanced disk and archive management. First, the SWT library has been updated. It's moved from version 4.2.4, that's from 2012, all the way to version 4.37, released in September of 2025. This brings a huge range of improvements, especially for the embedded browser component. DriveWire 4 can now load modern web pages and support current web technologies. That means a smoother, more reliable experience when browsing documentation or downloads directly inside of the app. The bookmark menu has been refreshed. You now have easy access to Nitrous 9 resources, including the official documentation wiki and the ease of use project. Software websites includes Curtis Boyle's game site, the Color Computer Archive, and Mike Snyder's CoCo Quest. DriveWire specific sites include the DriveWire 4 wiki, which is the home page, the GitHub repository, where you can download DriveWire from, and its source code, the discontinued SourceForge repository, the official Boise Pete repository, and PyDrivewire. Now let's talk about the browser itself. Thanks to the SWT update, DriveWire 4 can now render HTML audio controls directly in the browser. For example, load HDB-DOS page. This is a local web page that includes an audio player for 3 HDB-DOS WAV files, or WAV files. Files included are for the CoCo 1, the CoCo 2, and the CoCo 3. You can play these files directly inside of DriveWire, making HDB-DOS loading across CoCo systems much more convenient. I'll give you a little sample here. Okay, I'll stop that, but you get the idea. Another big improvement, you can now insert disk images directly from the Color Computer Archive. This wasn't possible before because the previous SWT version didn't render the site correctly, and because the archive distributes DSK files inside of zips that are one level deeper than the root, something the older version of DriveWire could not handle. So now DriveWire handles this seamlessly. So let's go. I'm going to look for a specific game. I'm going to use RoboTac because it's the one that I'm always using. And just to be consistent, and here it is loaded in Drive 0. And if you look over to your left, you'll see my webcam is facing my monitor that my CoCo is connected to. Oops. Sorry there, can't type. All right, as you saw, I loaded RoboTac in Drive 0 and I was able to access it from my CoCo. Okay. Now, all disk and archive management that used to be handled with code that was handled in the code inside of this browser has now moved to another file called the DWImageMounter. It still supports all the same file types: bin, DSK, VHD, basic, ARC, image, DMK-OS9, and zip. But now the code is centralized. It's in this one file, which means inserting, loading, or appending disk works consistently across the app. In the DriveWire browser, you can now click on a drive row to insert or append a disk. What that means is before you had to type it in here, even though I may remove this, but you can now click on a row and let's say you wanted to insert something there. You can click, and now it's inserted there, something that wasn't possible before. Okay. So now there's a new feature that was included, or at least was attempted to be included in DriveWire. It's called append. And I looked through the code and I was able to implement what I think Aaron had in mind when he first wrote DriveWire. So you can click on here, okay, and then you can append by clicking on this icon here of a floppy disk. And you'll see a little plus sign shows up. And as long as I'm clicked on that drive, I can come here. Actually, let's take this from another site, and I can find a bin file. And let's do, I guess, rear guard. There's a bin file here. So now that has been appended to this disk file. I'll show you. As you can see there, I did a dir on my CoCo, and now it shows up inside of that file. Again, if I want to save this file that I've just appended to, I can right-click on it, and I can export image to drive, and I can give it a name and save it for later use. Okay. We've also fixed several bugs and improved stability. Multiple file loading now works correctly. So I can show you, for example, and I'm not going to use it, I'm just going to show you how it loads. I can go to the Color Computer Archive, and let's go to 7 here just for kicks. And I'll go to the archive, and I'll say disks, and I'll say operating systems. And I'll pick a file that I know to have more than one image inside of it. And I think that's, yeah, multi-view. So I'll click on that. It'll tell me there are 4 images in this archive. Would you like to load them into drives 7 through 10? I say yes, and it loads them. This can be useful as, you know, you can have a zip file with a bunch of images inside. So there. DriveWire comes with prepackaged releases. And I'll show you one of them now. Okay. If we go to the GitHub repository for DriveWire 4, you can scroll down and you can see that there's a version for Windows x64 with Java included. No need to install Java. It will be installed along with DriveWire 4. It will not install system-wide, so that means it will not interfere with your existing programs. There's also a prepackaged one for Linux x86-64. I've tested this on Ubuntu and Debian. And then there's one that's specifically for Linux ARM64, which works well on the Raspberry Pi. Now, there's a note for Linux installations. I'll click here. If you are going to use this on Linux, make sure that this library called lib-swpt-webkit-gtk-4-jni is installed. If it isn't installed, DriveWire may behave abnormally, and you might need to reinstall after adding the package. Now, it'll behave abnormally, but you can just delete it and then just reinstall it. This version has been tested. This version of DriveWire has been tested on Ubuntu x86-64, Raspbian, ARM64 for the Raspberry Pi, Windows 10, and Windows 11. Startup scripts exist for Intel and ARM Macs, but functionality hasn't been fully verified on these platforms yet, just because I don't have a Mac and I can't run Mac OS. Anyhow, that's it for the latest DriveWire 4 updates. With these changes, browsing, disk management, and archive support are all smoother, faster, and more reliable than ever. If you enjoyed this update or found it helpful, please add a note somewhere, leave a comment, or if you find a bug, you can go to the GitHub repo and add an issue, and I will try and get to it as soon as I can. Thank you for watching. And good luck and have fun using DriveWire 4.